remarkable 21-year-old from Oklahoma who came back from the dead. Our national correspondent Natalie Morales has his incredible story. Natalie?
Well, Matt, Zack Dunlap's story is one I will certainly never forget. To say that this much-loved warehouse worker got a 1-in-a-million break is a huge understatement. Really, there are no statistics for what happened to Zack. As for his family, this was a tragedy that turned into a real-life miracle.
Zack Dunlap liked driving souped-up four-wheelers along with his friends until last November when he lost control and flipped. The prognosis couldn't have been worse. With no brain activity evident, Oklahoma authorities were notified that Zack had died. While his parents struggled to cope with the crushing news, they gave consent for Zack's organs to be donated.
We wanted to make sure that some lucky person got to live on through Zack's heart.
With a helicopter sent by an organ harvesting team scheduled to land, Zack's relatives gathered to say their goodbyes, including his adoring grandmother.
I went in and I prayed right there.
What were you asking for?
Just a miracle. That he was too young for God to take him was the time.
Zack's cousins, Dan and Christy Coffin, who are both nurses, thought the same thing. That's why Dan decided to run the shaft of his pocket knife across Zack's foot.
He jerked his foot plumb out of my hand.
Then Dan dug his fingernail beneath Zack's.
That's a tender area, and Zack just threw his hand over here. And by now, this kind of...
He physically moved that arm over his body.
From me, across his body.
And I kind of drew up inside myself, you know, and I'm like, oh my God.
As for Zack's parents...
We went from the lowest possible moment to, oh my gosh, our son is alive.
I imagine you're still, though, not getting your hopes up because you don't really know
very guarded.
What he's going to be like.
We had no idea what we were facing.
But when could anyone be sure Zack could ever be more than a profoundly brain-damaged patient? That answer came in the following weeks and months. Zack would awake and then some. 48 days after the accident that nearly took his life, Zack came home to a hero's welcome.
Yeah. And this morning we're lucky enough to have Zack himself here along with his parents Doug and Pam and his younger sister Casey. Good morning to you. Also great to see you all back here once again. Good morning. And you are looking great. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good, but it's just hard.
It seems like every time I see you that, you know, there's a look in your eyes, it's back, you've got that spark back, so you're really on the road to recovery here.
Yeah, I just ain't got the patience.
You just don't have the patience. You want to be better right away. Do you remember what happened leading up to the accident and any of the time right after?
Well, I remember a little bit. That was about an hour before the accident happened, and then about 6 hours before that I remember. And I remember eating at the church after the parade. And that's about it.
One thing that you told me that really, I had goosebumps after you told me this, was that the one thing you do remember, you seem to have some kind of out-of-body recollection almost, was that you heard the doctors pronounce you dead. You heard that, right? What was your reaction? What did you hear?
I'm glad I couldn't get up and do what I wanted to do.
You wanted to get up and shake them and say, I'm still in here, I'm alive?
Probably would have been a broken window that went out.
Pam, when you see your son here now almost 4 months after what happened, and to think what you went through, the unimaginable, where you know, on that Monday you had gone through just signing off for the organ donation, and 4 hours later you were told, wait a minute, everything's on hold, he's alive. Can you take me back to that moment?
That was the most miraculous feeling. I mean, we had gone, like we said, from the lowest possible emotion that a parent could feel to the top of the mountains again. I mean, it was, we were still very guarded because we weren't sure what his prognosis would be, but just to hear the words that he was back with us was something that I'll remember forever.
Doug, there is, as you said, no fault here. You're not blaming anyone, the hospital or anything, for what happened. I mean, you saw those tests, right? What did those tests indicate to you?
There was no activity at all, no blood flow at all.
No blood flow into the brain.
Right.
So you were ready to say goodbye to your son at that point.
we didn't want him as a vegetable, you know. We didn't know what he was going to be like, but they said that he was brain dead and there would be no life. So we were preparing ourselves, and Zack has always been a giver, and he always wanted to make sure everybody had things going their way, and he didn't want to give up, and we didn't want his organs to give up either, and he didn't either.
So you were ready to allow somebody else to live on.
Right.
With your son's organs. Casey, meanwhile, I know that your grandmother, Naomi, as we saw, she was praying for a miracle. The whole town, in fact, was praying for this miracle. Do you think that that is actually what worked here? Do you think that's the reason your brother's sitting here?
Yes, I do.
And can you believe your eyes? Are you pinching yourself every morning seeing your brother?
Yeah.
Pinching him still? You're still here?
Yeah.
Pam, I can't even begin to imagine what every day must be like for you now, though. I mean, on this road to recovery, I know he's getting his memory back. How's he doing? What are some of the things he's still going to have to struggle with?
He's been doing amazingly well, but you know, he does still have a lot of memory issues, and it just takes a long time for the brain to heal after such a traumatic injury.
It was a catastrophic injury.
It was. And, you know, and it may take a year or more before he completely recovers. But that's okay. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We're just so thankful and blessed that we have him here.
And you're helping him every step of the way. Are you, in the meantime, are you trying to spur those memories, trying to jog that memory back?
We do.
Yeah.
We talk about things that he used to do when he was younger, and he remembers a lot of those things. Some of the things we might not want him to remember.
Yes. Well, I know that you're getting ready to start driving again soon. Is that right?
I've been wanting to drive about the day I was back from rehab.
I bet. I bet. You're not going to be driving any ATVs, though, right?
Matters on the helmet.
Meanwhile, though, you do have something. You have that pocket knife with you. When you look at this pocket knife now and you think the symbolicness of this, the fact that this is what they rubbed on the bottom of your foot, Dan and Christy, your cousins, what do you think when you look at that thing?
It just makes me thankful. And makes me thankful that they didn't give up.
Thank goodness, right?
And only the good die young, so it's good to go.
Wow. You're doing great. We're so glad you're doing great. Zack, Doug, Pam, and Casey, great to have you all here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.